Hey Natalie, thanks so much for joining us. How you
Hi,
doing?
thank you for having me. Please excuse my voice, it's gone missing.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we'll refind it during the interview today. For those of you that don't know about Natalie, Natalie is a doctor of Chinese medicine, an acupuncturist, a natural fertility educator, an author, and a speaker. Is that correct?
That's right, I
Did I
do
miss
all those
anything else
things.
off there?
Yep, it takes up a lot of time, but it's all good.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about why you do what you do in terms of the fertility expertise that you have.
Yeah, sure. Well, when I first started treating, I discovered that there was a whole heap of people that just, it was this influx. It wasn't something that I chose. I decided I wanted to treat the gut and try and maximize people's health through their gut function. And all of a sudden, there was all these women coming for their reproductive issues. And I sort of thought to myself, okay, well, if that's the case, I need to be the best I can in this department. And so I went and I did whatever I could to learn as much as possible about fertility and reproductive medicine, and really decided I needed to tie the two together because there's a lot of Western treatments that are quite invasive, not necessarily not effective, but with the support treatment of something like what I do, it was able to really increase the chances of success around fertility. So the one thing I always talk about, though, is that fertility is not limited to babies. It's about having a healthy reproductive system. So, making sure that everything's working from top to toe, not just your uterus, because it requires everything to be able to work. So, I guess my tagline now, I've just recently changed it. It says it's not just about babies. And I really am trying to reach out to everybody
Yeah,
from when they're young, because that's when we lay the foundation for all of this.
yeah. And do you think that young people are particularly interested in improving their chances of fertility, or not?
Not at all.
Not at all.
That's I think it's something that's just happened. We've really disconnected from what our bodies teach us and tell us.
Mhm.
And at 16, you don't care about if your period's regular or not. I mean, I guess you'd care about if it was painful, but I guess it really is opening up this whole idea about teaching young girls to really understand and more so appreciate too. I'd love to grab some of my mid 30-year-old patients
Yeah.
and put them in a room with 16-year-old girls because they've been to hell and back in terms of their fertility. And so, you know, if we can start to demonstrate to these young girls the ramifications of some of the things we do in our 20s, I think that we could have this massive turnaround. And I really found that after I wrote my book, Fertilize Yourself, I felt really called to reaching out to these young girls who I didn't know any better when I was 16,
Mhm.
having a period of inconvenience. Going on the pill whilst I didn't do that was an appealing idea because it was a bother. And so, if you could skip it or not have it, why not? If your
Yeah.
GP's telling you that that's okay, why not? Well,
Mhm.
we're actually learning now that there's ramifications of that. So, I think really reaching out to all women and teaching them how to be the best version of themselves is very much, the foundation of what I do.
Mhm. Absolutely. And what are the main mistakes that sort of people in their 20s are doing or making that's affecting their fertility?
The pill's a big one, and I can't say it's a mistake because for some people it might be the right thing, but for the
Mhm.
majority of people, the pill long-term causes all sorts of issues that we're only just learning about now, and I think it's only because we've been on it long enough to see the ramifications, and I think also because women have fallen pregnant coming off the pill, had children, and they're the people now that are having the trouble having children. So
Right.
I think, we know that somebody that's been on the pill that's conceived very quickly or early off the pill is more likely to have problems.
Mhm.
And, sorry, the child more likely to have problems. And so you've got to connect the dots and go, well, these are the same women now that are having trouble having children. So the pill is one big factor, I think.
Mhm.
I think the other thing is just disregard for the importance of a period. Like, and for the importance of what your body's going through. I have women all the time that tell me that their GP's told them that there's no benefit or purpose to a period, and it breaks my heart because if we weren't supposed to have it, we wouldn't have it. It's not
Mhm.
just there because it's there
That's a
for a
strange
reason.
thing to
So
tell
I
someone.
think that's really important as well. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is really disregarding what our body's telling us. You know, just thinking that our bodies are stupid and disregarding that we're in actual fact our bodies are totally clever and trying to actually reach out and tell us stuff, and we're just not informed enough to know.
And what's the biggest myth that you're forever clearing up that you just want to tear your hair out about?
Okay, so it's going to be all about the pill today, isn't it? That you can't fall pregnant whilst you're on the pill. And, you know, the effectiveness of the pill is another thing too. I think women are led to believe that it's this safety net, and the number of pregnancies on the pill is really high. And so I think, you know, understanding that it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all, and there's lots of reasons why it wouldn't be effective, and lots of pregnancies that occur whilst on that. So I think that is probably a big myth. And I guess also, you know, when you're fertile and when you're not, and people thinking that they ovulate on day 14 of their cycle every time, that's another big one that I come across all the time, and it's not necessarily the case. In fact, more people probably ovulate at other times of the month, other than 14. So again, comes back to really understanding what your body's telling you and learning to identify that.
So for anybody that's really struggling with fertility right now, if they came to see you in your clinic, what are the top 5, 6 things that you would advise them to do in order to improve their chances?
Yeah, absolutely. Diet and lifestyle is key. And I wrote a book called Fertilize Yourself, and that's pretty much what it talks about, all the things that you would do outside of my clinic to better your fertility. And I wrote that because the same question, people were asking me from all around the world, what can I do in my own life to maximise my fertility? And it's the same answer over and over and over again. And so I felt like I was this broken record. I'm just going to write a book and put it all in there. And so the top 5 things, diet is key, and that, you know, food is medicine, and that's how we nourish our bodies. And if we're not doing that properly, we can't expect our body to work properly. So especially for fertility, we know that our hormones are made of fats and proteins. And so if we're not eating adequate amounts of both fat and protein, our hormones just can't work properly because they don't have what they need. So, you know, what that might look like, I say to people, up to 50% of your plate should be protein and 20 to 30% therapeutic fat. So, you know, oily fish, things like chia seeds, olive oil, coconut butter, these sorts of foods that are really high in therapeutic fats and good fats. We're not talking about trans fats. So that's one thing and you know, we've been on this low fat bandwagon for a really long time, and it's caused so much damage to so many people. So we've really got to move away from that. And I think understanding that, you know, like I said, your hormones are made of these things helps us to go, oh, I get it, you know. She's not just saying that because whatever. The other thing is low-fat foods are just full of sugar. So that's another thing that will affect your fertility and your gut health as well, and that's really important. Stress is a really big factor, so that would probably be number 2. In fact, with diet, we know that stress really lessens fertility by, I say, up to 50%. So it's really, yeah, I know. We're just, and you know, it sets your hormones all out of kilter. It obviously raises your cortisol levels. It's something that we see contributing to high estrogen levels, and you know, many women are estrogen dominant nowadays. It's just, you know.
And why is that? Is that due to the all the chemicals in our skincare?
Yeah, pretty much. It's due to the chemicals. Our body products, we absorb 80% of what we put on our body. The same as, you know, our hair products, our skincare, but also there's chemicals in our environment, our water. It's everywhere, and we can't necessarily escape it. So we need to put in practice where we can, you know, be mindful and put in practice things, those that are in our control anyway. We can't always control the air we breathe, but we can control the water quality or the body products that we're using. But again, stress, because it will affect our adrenals, it'll in a roundabout way affect our estrogen, and it'll just drive our estrogen levels up because it basically lowers our progesterone levels.
Right. Okay.
So really big one. there's others. Alcohol again does the same thing. It mimics estrogen. So we really need to look at, and it's a very big one for men, I often find, because men are about 60% of the equation, I say, when it comes to especially fertility and pregnancy. So we need to look at that as well, and that just does the same thing. It basically increases estrogen in the male body, and we know that they're not supposed to have high levels of estrogen, so it'll really play around with the way that the sperm look. Mm-hmm. And women, it'll affect their ovulation. So alcohol is another big one. Sleep, having enough sleep is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, sleep is the elixir of health, And if you can't sleep, then you need to find a way or a reason why that might be, and find a way to sleep. It'll affect our prolactin levels, which will affect our ovulation. So that again is another really good one. And then I always say, trying to remove toxins, from your food. So things like organic produce, growing your own, that's really important as well. And just in terms of removing other chemicals from your home, cleaning products, those sorts of things. Again, for the same reason, it all comes down to hormone health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first sort of went into raw food and looking at what I was putting onto my body as well as into it, I was absolutely astounded at all the chemicals that are in our everyday products that are just sold in shops that people buy from every single day. I was like, how can they do this? This is ridiculous. Like the phthalates and, the SLS and all these disgusting things are going into our skin and our bodies, and I was just absolutely dumbfounded at how that's legal. How is that legal?
I know, and really, really bad. It's I always say if it lathers, then I'm scared of it, because anything that lathers too much, I'm scared. I'll shy away from for that reason. But it is really, we like to feel clean and squeaky clean, and I think that's something that, over time we've just gotten the habit of we don't feel clean unless we've got that, strip the oils away completely, which is so bad for our skin anyway. And there's some really good products that you can use that are really easily used, and very, less is more when it comes to that sort of stuff. Bit of coconut butter, and
coconut butter does the trick, doesn't it?
That's good.
Other than the fats, what other foods would you recommend people increase to promote fertility within them?
Well, obviously whole foods are really important. So, like I mentioned, low-fat foods, they're just full of empty nothing. You might as well eat cardboard. We need to really nourish our body, obviously, especially coming off things like the pill, or especially if you, alongside of things like IVF or supportive or fertility treatments, our body really gets robbed of the essential vitamins and minerals. And we know that the pill, not only does it deplete our vitamin and mineral stores, but it also stops our body from absorbing them. So, people will say to me, oh, well, I'm on the pill. Can I take a multivitamin? I'm like, well, you can, but you're just going to wee it out because your body can't absorb it. So, eat the rainbow. It's so important that we're coming back to basics. Eating whole food, plant-based is really what our bodies require. So it's very much for me just bringing it back down to basics, and if it doesn't, grow in the ground or walk around on the ground, then don't touch it. It's, good for you.
Awesome. Okay, brilliant. Well, I think that kind of covers everything I wanted to ask you, so thank you so much.